Take a temperature check of the room. I think I anticipate knowing the answer already, but I want to ask for you to respond in chat if you currently have some sort of a mindfulness or meditation practice that you engage in. That could be something autonomous where you find, 15 minutes of stillness in your day, or maybe you travel and go, do something collectively at a retreat. But give me a one if you do something like that now. Melissa's already the first to say daily walks in nature. I love that. I also do that. Awesome. This is what I this is what I suspected. All right. I know Sarah's going to put something in there too. So here's my follow-up question to this. What are the benefits that are personally unique to you that you gain from doing this? How does it fill your bucket? And you can come off mute. I'd love to hear voices other than my own. Like, how do you benefit from it? What's the value of it too?
It's a great way to center and if you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it's a great way to center and get grounded and remove those feelings of stress.
Yeah, thank you. 100%. Melissa, you say it clears your mind. Yeah, and it allows that opening for the creativity to flow, which is essential for the work that you do. Look at all this. Yeah. Or Melinda starts your intention as being you time. Connection with source. I love it, Jen. Wow. So all these benefits. So here's my last question, and it clears my mind, Gina says, so that you can focus. Absolutely. What is the consequence of not doing it for you?
Anxiety,
Hmm. Feeling
irritation.
scattered. Yeah. Scattered, Lindsay says.
I just feel like I've missed something, like because it's so much a part of my routine.
Hmm.
So then
Yeah.
all of a sudden everything just falls into place. Oh, this is why I'm off.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like your single source of truth. When something else is falling apart, you're like, oh, well, of course, that's why. Brain fog. Yeah. Okay. So clearly, a lot of consequences to not doing it. I'm going to pull up a slide here. I have a few slides to share today, but I wanted to start by engaging with you and connecting. And I was telling Melissa, I'm going to take a very complex, big topic, and I'm going to do my very best. My intention is to distill it down and really allow it to be accessible and pragmatic for everybody so that you leave having an understanding of what it is and also even being able to leverage it and use it in practical ways. So, PQ, positive intelligence, PQ is a shortened version of it. It is it's not simple, but simply put, it's a mental fitness program that is similar in some ways to mindfulness. There's a distinct different, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. But like you go to the gym and you lift weights and you do the reps to build muscle, with positive intelligence, you're doing PQ reps, which are really engaging the positive intelligence region of your brain so that you can gain command, not control, but command over your brain in stressful situations, emotionally charged situations, conflict, right? Think about all of the things that are difficult. We as human beings, we react in an autopilot sort of way when we're faced with challenges. We all do it if we're not in our present mindfulness sage brain. So we might say the wrong thing, we might do the wrong thing, we might mirror somebody's very triggered emotion and kind of compete with that. But when the PQ region of our brain is activated, we're able to make decisions with clarity. We're able to address situations with more clarity. Maybe that's, making a decision about letting somebody go, firing somebody. Maybe it's leaning in and giving difficult feedback to an employee. Like maybe it's having a really tough conversation with a spouse, right? It could be a number of different things. So it seems simple enough, doesn't it? Well, because we can all understand how good we feel when we are aligned and when we're connected to source and when we're mindful. Like all of us agree on that. There's consensus with it, and we know it feels good, and we know we're out of alignment when we're not doing that. So why is it challenging? Like what gets in the way of it? And I'm going to get to that in a moment. I want to share just a quick data point, and I think we can all relate to this too. You all have read a really transformative book or listened to an incredible podcast where you glean insights. Like we all do that, right? You can all probably think of something even recently. Has anybody recently listened to a podcast or have one that they really like that they recommend to friends? Usually people love to kind of share what they're listening to. Anyone? Who's that? Ooh, Super Soul Sunday. I love it. I love that. Here they come. Zach Bush. Melissa, I don't know that one. Um, who's Zach Bush?
He's I don't even know how to explain him. He's like on another level of just how he involves being connected with the earth, with our humanity and our health and our
Mm,
well-being. And
yeah.
it goes deep into like the cells and the regeneration. He's just good.
Yeah, it
And
sounds
after I
incredible.
listen to him, I always feel like I can like move the mountains.
Yeah, that's a great metaphor. I'm for some reason spacing out on one of I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, but the author of Let Them, why is her name escaping me at the moment? I'm having
Mel.
perimenopausal brain fog.
Mel Robbins.
Thank you. Yeah, Sarah, big glasses. Mel Robbins. So the point of this is that we glean insight, 20% insight from these types of resources, which is great, right? Because our self-awareness builds and we have the insights. And then often what people will say is like, oh yeah, I read that book. Oh yeah, I need to revisit that. I'm going to reread it. They don't apply the learning. And so this is where this PQ program that I'm going to tell you about helps you apply it because you're applying it every day by doing PQ reps. And once you have those new neural pathways laid down in your brain, you have quicker access to them when your nervous system is activated or you're triggered emotionally or whatever it is. I'm going to show this visual because I think this is the differentiator. Some people will ask questions like, well, how is this different than meditation or mindfulness? How is it different than emotional intelligence? We know that as EQ. So the intersection of positive intelligence takes practices from all of these in the circle that you see, and it's really rooted in neuroscience, and that's what I really geek out about. I'm really interested in neuroscience because the work I've been doing for the last 20 years is often coaching people through their speaking anxiety and giving them tools to manage that in advance, during, and after, because it's that fight or flight response to speaking that a lot of people, our primitive brain tells us it's a threat, right? The audience is a threat to us because there's a lot on the line, our reputation, our credibility. So I've been doing that kind of work in some ways for a long time. And then this is adding a whole new layer to it. And I'm going to explain a couple of examples here. But I think the takeaway that I want to give you, because I know there's some text here on the slide, is that we often um, behave in ways that create a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You all know that term, that theory, that if something bad happens, then we then go into this habitual default autopilot mode to be like, well, I bet something else bad's going to happen, and then we behave in ways that reinforce the bad outcome. It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy. The good news is we can create self-fulfilling prophecies, and you all know this, that are positive, right? And it's not magic and it's not woo-woo, although some people might think, oh, that's woo-woo. It's literally neuroplasticity that when we create something positive, we want more of it, right? And that's the upside to this. That's the optimistic part of this that really excites me and energizes me is that when we engage the sage region of our brain, which is also known as like the wisdom, we are going to attract better responses in stressful situations, stressful times. If we don't build the PQ region of our brain, we will habitually default to our autopilot reactions to stressful situations. I'm going to come back to this in just a few minutes, but I'm going to guide you through a little exercise. So, without going super deep into this, what I want to name here is what gets in the way. So, in positive intelligence, there are 10 what are called saboteurs. There are 10 ways we self-sabotage our performance, our well-being, and our relationships. Now, the master saboteur on the left, often most of us can resonate this. We call it like our self-critic, or they call it the judge in the language of positive intelligence. I haven't mentioned this, but the founder of positive intelligence is a lecturer at Stanford. And I do some coaching work with MBA students in the Stanford communication program. So I learned about this from one of my colleagues, learned about this program. But I'll say more about that. But he designed this saboteur assessment. And when you take the assessment, I'm going to share the link with you at the end here if you're interested in taking it. It takes about 10 minutes. It will show you your profile of saboteurs, and everybody has these. They're created, they're really manifested and created around the age of 5 years old, and we all have them. They are, they're survival techniques. And underpinning these saboteurs are actually our innate strengths. But when we over-index on those strengths or we abuse them, then they become these saboteurs that run interference with our lives. So these are the archetypes of all of them. And I just wanted you to be able to see some of them. You might even start to gravitate towards one or two and go, oh, yeah, that's me. That might be me. And I think it does absolutely with any assessment, right? If you've ever taken Myers-Briggs or you've ever taken StrengthsFinder, I think the environment, your mental state of mind and the context and the timing for when you take the assessment is going to influence the profile that you get back. So I would just say that. I think that's true. If you take it when you're feeling like really defensive or really tired or in a really good mood, like you might get a different outcome. So I think that's important because I do have clients who say, "Oh, I took it and then I took it again and I got a slightly different result." All right, can I just pause here for a moment and just ask, is anybody willing just to be vulnerable enough to say like, I think X is one of my saboteurs? Like it would rank high on your profile because they end up being ranked in terms of like how often they're activated and they show up for you.
I'll go with pleaser for sure.
Okay. Yeah, people pleaser or pleaser in general. Yeah.
Controller,
Mm-hmm.
hyper rational.
Yeah.
Melissa's laughing. I chose that almost for Melissa's reaction, but I know I am.
All right. I wish I had more time. I'm going to go through this a little bit quick. So let me share with you just a personal story, a personal journey really quick. Sarah knows this well. So I was introduced to this PQ program. It's a 6-week program about over a year and a half ago or so, at a very, very challenging time personally for me. I lost my mom. I was in deep grieving for her, still am, but it looks different season of grieving. I was having a lot of parenting challenges with my youngest son, who was displaying, and still does, although there's improvement, but displaying a lot of neurodivergent behaviors, and it was really challenging. And my husband was traveling most of the time, like 2 to 3 weeks out of the month. And I was trying to find a rhythm of like, how do I how do I manage all of this? So my saboteurs, without having the language yet, were activated, like full on mode. And I had a coaching grant as a coach. I was able to apply for this coaching grant and go through a pod experience with two of my friends and colleagues. And it really was a very, very transformative experience to be in a supportive container where we could pressure test some of the sage strategies we were learning, and we could share the challenges, and we could, really lean into having conversations that were really important to have. And the practical side of this is that I want to share with you is that these three saboteurs for me were the ones that I identified with that were my top three. So that everybody primarily has the judge. We all have that universally. And then the three that come after that were these stickler. So my stickler, another word for that would be a perfectionistic kind of attributes that I have, like perfectionism. A lot of my clients have that. Restless and victim. And so from my victim, I was noticing for myself that I was feeling a lot of resentment towards my husband, towards my mom dying, like a lot of resentment. I felt like, oh my God, bad stuff's happening to me, kind of a thing. And then the restless part, I think, was influenced by growing up as a latchkey kid. Fear of missing out is often kind of what underlies the restless saboteur. I always have like 10 irons in the fire. And I think my mom was a single mom. And so often, we were eating dinner in front of the TV, and there was a restlessness about the chaos of my environment, my home environment. So in a nutshell, I was discovering these things and how they run interference with my life. And particularly the stickler for me was showing up as I was parenting my 5-year-old son. So whether it was me getting like fixated on, Cash, you need to brush your teeth before we have a nighttime story. Or, something like that, I found like it needed to be done that way before we could do this. Whether I read that in a parenting book or whatever, I would get into these very fixated states. And one of the practical strategies that I learned in this program, and it's very simple, but it was the SAGE strategy of looking at an 80 bucket and a 20 bucket. So when my stickler's activated and I know I'm in that mode of I want it to be done just so, and I get into that kind of perfection expectation where I want other people to do it my way, I was able to go look at the big picture and go, okay, the truth is 80% of the time, it does not matter if he puts his shoes on the wrong feet and forgets to brush his teeth at night. Like if he's having a meltdown, I need to let that go. 80% of the time, it does not really matter. 20% of the time, it matters because it's a safety issue, right? Cash, don't run into the street. Like you'll get hit by a car. Don't run away. He was displaying a lot of elopement kind of behaviors, like running away, fleeing, all these things that were really scary. So I was learning some strategies for how to parent him better. One other example I'll talk about here was one of my colleagues who went through this pod with me was she's an amazing person, amazing coach, total people pleaser. And what ended up happening for her was she found the momentum through this course to quit one of the consulting firms she worked for and stop saying yes to this boss that she had. She kept saying yes to things. And every time she did it, she felt like garbage, right? She was always saying yes to things. And so she actually ended up resigning and leaving and really leaning into her own practice. So the point of this visual is just to show you that on this polyvagal ladder, which is really how our nervous system responds to stressful situations or emotively charged ones. A lot of times where I'm working with clients and have been for a long time is in the sympathetic, which is that fight or flight flee or fawn response. My friend that was the pleaser, she would tend to fawn when she got into that state of her body. So she would fawn, like apologize a lot, say yes to things she didn't want to do, looked for a lot of validation, right? She would always say, you know what I mean? Isn't that right? So that was a real takeaway for her. I'm checking the time here. Um, this is some, I think, pretty positive data. I'll just share. This comes from Positive Intelligence. It's a global movement. It's all offered all over the world. Coaches offer it, and this was data metrics from 2,000 people who went through this. And I'm not going to read all these data points to you, but the three areas of improvement that they saw with this program were well-being, increased performance. That could be at work, professionally, or it could be if you're a runner or, any kind of performance, and then better relationships. So pretty impactful. And this is where I felt like I gained so much improvement that I was like, this is a tool that I would really like to weave into my current coaching practice. Um, and what I want to share is two more quick examples. So I work with a lot of women. I work with men too, but I work with a lot of women. And so far in all of the PQ work I've done, it's been engaging female clients. And I had a particularly really unique client. She is a police officer. Her supervisor had reached out to me because she has this crew of direct reports that are all young men. These are like a generation younger than her. They're all either, out of the military or young police officers. And she was getting a lot of really negative feedback as their leader. So they were calling her, all the words, right? She's aggressive. She's adversarial. She gives terrible, she's mean. She's not approachable. So controller was her top saboteur. And she went through this program, and the outcomes that she shared afterwards was, I feel less, she was in tears when we worked together because she had this exterior, right? She put on this face and she masked all of these really strong emotions she was feeling, right? She was just feeling worn down, stressed out, didn't want to go to work, really, really unhappy. And she reported feeling and being able to regulate her emotions and give be dis give dis how do I want to say it? When giving feedback, able to communicate it in a much more direct and measurable way for people, stripping blaming language out of it, and all kinds of things that started to improve. And her boss was very, very happy with the results. And so she's doing better now in her role. And then there's one other example I want to share with you. This is a current client I'm working with. She's a VP of a company, youngish, younger than me, in her 30s, I'd say, hyperachiever. She got promoted into this VP role very quickly. So her career trajectory went very quickly. And now she's forming a team, bootstraps, like from the ground up, and she's identifying what kind of leader she wants to be. And she does a lot of speaking. So she does a lot of public speaking. She does a lot of media speaking. She's client facing. And so she wants to be a better speaker. And she took this saboteur assessment and realized that hyperachiever and controller and stickler were running interference with her ability to empower her team to get results. She as a controller, she's having trouble delegating responsibilities. As a stickler, she writes scripts when she speaks, and that really creates a perfectionistic sort of performative anxiety for her. So right now she's working on all of these things. And I think this is what's pretty cool about this, is that all of these saboteurs the underpinning of them are our strengths, and we can reclaim those strengths. So if you look at, like, her strengths are incredible. She's self-motivated. She has discipline. all of these things that she wants to really lean into as a leader and be able to catch her saboteurs when they start to take over. Um, the biggest thing that she shared with me the other day was that when her controller is activated, she thinks that she's perceived as intimidating and like she has it all figured out. And so her direct reports don't come to her to share ideas because they're like, no, she's got it. Right. And so they're actually not engaging and learning more. And she wants to develop them. She used a great metaphor. She said, I want to be the architect. I don't want to be, the engine of results. She said, I've been hustling a long time. Now I want to be an architect and I want the people underneath me to create the results. So she realizes there has to be a big shift. I would love to invite you, Melissa, can I take 2 minutes to do this? I'm going to stop sharing here for just a moment. I'm going to invite you to do a really quick session, PQ session with me. So if you're comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. If you're not, you can just lower them. The reason we close our eyes, as you know, in meditation, is that it gives us access to the PQ region of our brain, so the sage part of our brain. And I just want you right here to find your feet on the floor. If you're standing, you can certainly do it standing and roll your shoulders back if that feels good to you. Find the weight of your feet on the floor. Find the weight of your body in your seat if you're sitting. And ground yourself here. If I were outside, I'd be touching grass to ground myself. And I'm going to bring you into your sensory mode. So as your brain starts to kick up mind chatter, which of course it does, just notice it and let it move through you. And let's bring our attention to our breath. So taking an inhale and exhaling as slowly as possible. I'm not going to be too prescriptive about the breathing type that you do. Just keep taking those inhales and exhales, noticing the rise and fall of your chest, noticing your belly as it moves with your breath. And I want you to pay close attention to the nearest sound that you hear. Continuing to breathe. And the furthest sound that you hear. Continuing to breathe, take your 2 index fingers and bring them together with such attention that you notice the ridges and texture of your 2 unique fingerprints. And taking all of your fingertips on your right hand and placing them in the palm of your left hand, noticing the texture and the ridges of your palm. Giving your toes a wiggle if it feels good, rolling your shoulders back if it feels good. You can slowly open your eyes. That was a very abridged version of a PQ rep, but what's really cool about these is that everybody gravitates towards different ones, and it's all about engaging your sensory. So I think a lot of times there's resistance to like, oh, I already have my ritual in the morning. I think it's about habit stacking. So I'll share with you how I integrated PQ reps because I was pretty resistant to it, but you have to put the reps in to build the muscle memory and lay down the neural pathways. So in the morning, I'm going to drink coffee anyway. I have my cup of coffee. So what I do is I open the shade, I look out, right, to get that morning light coming in. And as I'm drinking the coffee, I'm paying attention to the temperature of the coffee because that's sensory. I'm paying attention to the flavor of that particular roast. And I'm even listening to the sound of my swallow. And I have that circadian rhythm starting because I've got the window open. And I don't open my text or look at the headlines in the news. I do not touch my phone, even if it's for the first 2 minutes of the day. And I work with some executive level people who are like, I can't not look at my phone. And it's like 2 minutes for them is hard. So for them, it might be when they sit up in their bed in the morning, it's feeling their feet in the carpet of the floor, on the floor. Or when they're brushing their teeth, they have to do that anyway. So they're habit stacking by paying attention to the flavor of the toothpaste, right? So there's a lot of ways to do PQ reps, and it's around sensory. And for those of you, many of you said that you walk. When you're walking your dog or hiking in nature, I do a lot of that too. It's paying attention to the green color of the leaves or the leaves changing, in the fall, whatever that is. The last thing I want to just share with you, if you have any interest in it, I want to just share that I'm gonna this spring I'm offering a pod opportunity as a way of giving people a chance to go through this if they're interested. So I coached a mom pod. We called it a mom pod. And it was 3 women in the community I live in who didn't know each other, but I knew all of them. So they formed a cohort for the 6-week program. These were all all moms are working moms, but they were professional and working moms, different lives and careers they're navigating. And the data point about 500% is that what research tells us for this particular program is that when you go through it as a learning community, you gain 500% more effectiveness in the results that you get than doing it solo. And so I wanted to share that with you. If you have friends or family that you would like to experience the pod with, you're more than welcome to email me or call me with questions around that. And I'm also happy to share just any resources I have. If you just want to geek out on the neuroscience of it, there's so much more to it. But in a nutshell, that's what it is. And I think as a very pragmatic coach, what excites me about it is that people have the tool to, in the moment, regulate their emotions or their nervous system so that they have command to make decisions not based on a reaction, our autopilot reaction mode, but actually our sage mode, which there's 5 sage powers, and those are so much more productive and so much better for our holistic well-being and our lives. So that's PQ in a very quick nutshell, and I know I went over.